In Zen, we call it big mind. Mind with a capital M, as opposed to small mind, ordinary mind. Ramana Maharshi called it the self with a capital S, or the true self, as opposed to the ordinary self, what we consider ourself, I, me, mine, me. These are not the same. True self, big mind, enlightened mind, original nature. These are all names for the same thing, and they're not really something that we can use words to describe. As you'll see, this is beyond words, beyond thoughts. Big mind, true self, is boundless, limitless, like infinite space. And yet even saying that about it is not it. There is nothing that we can say about this. As you'll see, this enlightened mind, this big mind, our original nature, original mind, the true self. In Rinzai Zen, in Cohen Practice, there's often a simple koan that goes like this. You see this object. It appears to be a pen. It is a pen. One of the pens that I use for drawing. So a koan might be, what is this? If you call it a pen, you are attached to name and form. If you say it is not a pen, you're attached to emptiness. Without thinking, tell me what this is. If you say it is a pen, you're attached to name and form. If you say it is not a pen, you're attached to emptiness. So what is it? What can you say? What can you say? It's not a pen. It's not a pen. What is it? And the reason that we give this as a koan or an exercise for your mind is to, first off, let go of thinking. Right? If your mind is already saying, what can I say? It's a pen, it's not a pen, it's neither a pen nor not a pen, what can I say? Well, you're attached to thought. You're trying to figure this out with thoughts, which is not big mind. This is what we call ordinary mind, little mind, the mind of duality, the mind of conditioning, the mind of good and bad, up and down, inside and outside, being and non-being. God and not God. This is the ordinary mind. So this practice is to free you from this ordinary mind. So the first thing we do is we let go of thinking. And then in this space of not knowing, we can start feeling this openness and this emptiness and this freedom. And we can also get attached to that. Because big mind is beyond that too. It's beyond all duality. So if we have an attachment to emptiness, it's no longer emptiness, really. Emptiness is empty of emptiness. Emptiness is empty of any concept of emptiness, any attachment to emptiness, anything to be attached to. So we have to let go of that too. And in that space, in that limitless, boundless space, there's freedom. And we can begin to realize our true nature, true self, big mind, vast like infinite space, boundless. neither being nor non-being, neither God nor not God, neither self nor non-self. This enlightened mind is a place of great freedom. And we may think with our ordinary mind, our thinking mind, that enlightenment is very difficult, very challenging to reach this state of enlightenment, this absolute freedom. Because we're thinking. That's our obstacle. We think it's difficult when it has always been our original nature, when we have never been apart from it, ever. Not for a single moment. Have we ever been apart from it? Or could we ever be apart from big mind, enlightened mind, true self? It is our original nature. You may understand this better when we first come into this world of form, because our minds have not been conditioned yet. Conditioned to believe our thoughts, to be addicted to our thoughts, to perceive the world through thoughts. Everything that we see and perceive in the world is perceived through thoughts. We do not perceive the world. We perceive our thoughts about the world. That's what our perceptions are. They're thoughts. Thoughts appearing to be the world. And the one who's perceiving it, we're perceiving the one who's perceiving it as if this also were something real and not just a thought. And perhaps right now, you may be experiencing that understanding big mind, not coming from thoughts and not coming from non-thoughts. Is better experienced as a direct transmission in silence, stillness, of something that's always been, that you've never not been this. Now, some of us in our journey, our spiritual journey, we may find a guru, a teacher, a guru. I did, in the form of Thich Nhat Hanh in my 30s. I'd been looking probably since before I was 18, really, seeing many different gurus, but not surrendered myself, right? There isn't really a guru in your life until you completely surrender yourself. And with Thich Nhat Hanh, I felt that was appropriate, that was okay, that was all right. The other ones, I was holding back. But with Thich Nhat Hanh, I did surrender, to a person, right? Surrendering to a person, and more than a person, but also to a person. And hopefully the guru is worthy of that surrender, because it can be problematic when it's not, But Thich Nhat Hanh, fortunately, was, and that's what I was waiting for, somebody that I felt was worthy, was very, very pure, very, very true. And that turned out to be so. Many people have discovered this with him. So for many years, Thich Nhat Hanh was like my guru, like my mother, my father, my guru, my kind of everything. I'd surrendered my life to Thich Nhat Hanh, really, and his teachings. And then at some point, I moved on to surrendering my life to God. God became my guru, right? You might say. So God became my guru. So I surrendered even more than I had to Thich Nhat Hanh, absolutely, completely everything to God. And in the result of that was that I was held by God um, for everything in my life, given miraculous things, healing abilities, and all kinds of things that happen through this surrender, you know. But I did what I was guided to do. My life was no longer my life. My life had gone. I'd given that up for God. Whatever God wanted, then I would do naturally, because that's all I cared about. What does God want in this moment? And then I would respond in that way. I'd given up everything in my life to that. So that went on for about 10 years. And along that time, there's still duality, right? So there's me and the guru. Me, I've surrendered to the guru. I've surrendered to God. So when I've surrendered to God, there's the one that surrenders, and there's the one that's surrendered to. So there's me and God. This is a mind of duality still. It's wonderful. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with this. The closer you get to freedom, the closer you get to opening up, the closer you get to giving your life to something more than the individual you. And that's why it's important, because especially in the West here, especially in the United States, we're conditioned to be very individualistic. So this complete surrender is challenging. I mean, it took me years to find a guru that I was willing to surrender to, because my individuality and my personal freedom was so important to me. You know, this is how we're trained to be. Like, you know, you can be anything. You are this, and you need to do this, and you're not good enough, or you're good enough, and you're proud, or you're ashamed, or, you know, all these different things, because it's all about me. It's all about this individual self. And this is very much what you see in most people in the US, most people in America, including in Sedona, where people are spiritual teachers, and it's still all about me. Right? They haven't gotten past the me. It's still all about me. They haven't even gotten to that state of complete surrender to a guru yet, which is a necessary state, because we have to surrender the me, right? And in the beginning, we surrender it to something. It's harder in Zen to surrender to nothing, to emptiness. You know, it's harder to do that. But with a person, you know, it's a step. And then to God, it's a very non-conceptual step, but we're still surrendering to something that's more than me, right? Something more than me. So it's okay to surrender to something more and better than me. So to surrender to that, that's a very important step, to surrender in that way, to surrender to something more than this personal self. To surrender this personal self. So these are steps that I went through, and many people go through in their spiritual journey, which is why a guru is not a bad thing on the journey. It's a traditional path that's been going on for a very long time. Likewise, surrendering to God is a path that's been going on for a very long time, and it works. I mean, in my experience, it works. But these are all steps too, because there's still duality. There's still me, even though I've surrendered me, the me that's the servant me, the me that's given up its life completely to God, and then God is serving and holding me, you know, or the guru is serving and holding me in exchange for that with this enormous love and feeling. And the same with God. It's just this feeling of being bathed in love, held in the lap of God, as Muji calls it, and just immersed in love and bliss for 10 years in my case, which is a wonderful experience. But there's still the sense of other. There's still a little bit of the sense of me and God, right? So this is not big mind. This is a mind of duality. This is a mind of still ordinary mind. Even though we're feeling these enormous, wonderful spiritual things are happening and our life has changed in such a profound way, there's still a sense of me and God, right? So this still happens until at some point all of that dissolves completely. And that's big mind. That's true self. That's our original nature. Before there was any concept of God or self or anything. So as Ramana Maharshi says, when the self is realized, the world disappears. Right? This is important to understand. When the self is realized, the true self is realized, the world disappears. The entire world, the entire universe disappears. This body and mind disappears. Everything disappears. Why? Because it was all a projection of the small mind. It was all a projection of our conditioned thoughts. So it doesn't mean that the world literally disappears. What it means is that all our thoughts about the world disappear. We no longer have any thoughts about the world. I mean, yes, thoughts can be there, but we don't believe them anymore. They have nothing to do with the world. Our thoughts of me have nothing whatsoever to do with me. So they can be useful at times, but mostly they're useless. Mostly they just don't have any relevance to truth and reality. They never actually have any relevance to truth and reality, because truth is what we experience with enlightened mind, with big mind, with true self, with our original mind, our original nature. And there is nothing that we can say about it. So the world of thoughts disappears, and what's left is the actual world, for which there's nothing we can say about. If we say anything about it, it's just a thought, isn't it? So there is no world and there's no non-world. There's no world and there's no absence of world. Neither are correct. As they say, Neti, which is a practice in Advaita, Indian spirituality, not this, not that, not this, not that, not this, not that about everything. Not a self, not a non-self. Not duality, not non-duality. So all spiritual teachings and words dissolve in truth, in enlightened mind, in big mind, in true self. All words, teachings dissolve. This is why in Zen, the Heart Sutra, Prajnaparamita Heart Sutra, is so important, because essentially it says the same thing. Not this, not that. Not this, not that. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. And it could go on and say there is neither form nor emptiness. It doesn't say that, but it sort of implied by saying that everything else is not this. No separation, no non-separation. No attainment, no enlightenment, no Buddha. No suffering, no end of suffering. So it takes all the Buddha's teachings, all the teachings in Buddhism, all the teachings in Zen, and it says, no, it's not that. And because people realize that none of the teachings are true in Zen, in Buddhism, in anything, it leaves you with this openness of enlightened mind. So the Heart Sutra is just this enormous breath of fresh air in any spiritual tradition. Put it all down. Let it all go. The Bhagavad Gita, let it go. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful book, wonderful. We can learn a lot from it. But if we really want to wake up, we have to let it go. We can't be attached to it. And that's the problem, though, right? We get attached to our spiritual teachings. We get attached to our guru, right? And so many people are attached to Thich Nhat Hanh still, even though he's in a state of a stroke and he can't speak anymore. People are still attached to him. I mean, he is a wonderful, wonderful man and a wonderful teacher. And I'm just so grateful that I came in contact with him and had him as a teacher for so many years. Is just a profound gift to me. But attachment is not right. That's a sickness. That's a spiritual sickness. To be attached to the guru. A good guru will constantly remove your attachment. And Thich Nhat Hanh was very good at that. You know, you'd say, no, it's you. It's you. Don't get attached to me. Stop all this love and stuff on me. Don't be attached to me. It's you. You're the one that wakes up. I can't wake you up. I can't do it for you. Your surrender is very important. Very, very, very critical. You have to surrender this sense of I, me, mine. This sense of a separate being. And how you do that? There's no really clear path to that. It just happens. But each step of surrender brings you closer to it. So you surrender this to the guru, good. Many, many people, most spiritual seekers get attached to the guru. Right? We see this all the time. And they can't move past it. They get to the point of they've surrendered the self, but then the guru is everything. I'm nothing and the guru is everything. Yes, that's wonderful. To realize you're nothing. But you haven't realized that you're everything yet. And you haven't realized that you're neither nothing nor everything. Which is the enlightened mind, which is when you wake up. But this step of surrender of the self to a guru is useful. And the step of surrendering to God is useful, very useful. It was for me. There was something to surrender to. And the rewards for doing that were immense. The rewards of surrendering to Thich Nhat Hanh as a teacher and guru were immense, were wonderful. My life was transformed in such positive ways from that. And the surrender to God was even more so, to the point of miracles happening. I mean, it was just we are guided if we let go. There's something that is guiding us, our true nature, our true self, big mind. The enlightened mind is guiding us. It's always with us. We're never not here. This is what's guiding us. I think in Christianity they call it the Holy Spirit. There's something more than me that's guiding me. Yes. Something more than this separate, ordinary mind, ordinary self is always here. What is it? Well, we can't know, can we? It's beyond our mental knowing, and yet it is absolutely real. It's far more real than our thoughts are, far more real than our perceptions of the world are, far more real than our perceptions of ourself are. These are just conditioned thoughts, essentially brainwashing. This is society's brainwashing. We have been accultured, which is brainwashing. We've been brainwashed to be in society by our parents, friends, teachers, conversations, media, and everything else. It's a continuous brainwashing circus. That's what it is. To live in society, you're continuously being brainwashed. Every conversation you have with another person is a brainwashing. It's not some evil person brainwashing you. Your friends are not evil. They're brainwashed too. That's why the brainwashing is happening. You both agree. Yes, the world looks like this. Yes, my perceptions and my brainwashing say that this is reality. Yes, my brainwashing says this is reality too. And that agreement is reinforcing your brainwashing. You go to school and you spend all these years going through elementary school, junior high school, college, graduate school, PhD school, all brainwashing. Every bit of it is acculturation, brainwashing. So, as you can imagine, letting all of that go, letting go of your attachment to all of it, doesn't mean that it's gone. It's still there. You need to use something or write or tell something that you learned in a PhD graduate program. It's available to you. It doesn't go anywhere. It's available if it's useful. But you're not attached to it anymore because you realize something far beyond that. You realize what's beyond all that conditioning, all that brainwashing. And when you let go of all that brainwashing, yes, indeed, just as Ramana said, the world disappears. This is samadhi, the first true opening to reality. The world disappears. That's the first thing that happens. The whole world disappears. Body and mind drop away. All of this disappears. And what is there? You can't say. You can't say. Eventually, over time, over time of spending much time in samadhi, much time in this state of freedom, the world appears again, but without attachment, without name and form, without, in its miraculous true nature, in its perfect and absolutely holy and sacred true nature. The world appears and you appear, not as two separate things, not as duality, not as non-duality. So I hope you can feel from being with me as I talk in this way, as I am in this way, as I experience in this way, as I feel in this way, that you can feel some of this freedom from your thoughts. Some relief, some letting go of thought. You might say, if I hold up this pen and say, what is this? If you call this a pen, you're trapped in name and form. You're wrong. You're living in illusion. If you say this is not a pen, you're trapped in attachment to emptiness, also illusion. So tell me what it is. What is this? And I think one good answer is, who cares? You know, I don't need to be tested. It's just words. It's just thoughts. It's just non-thoughts. There's something much truer here than that. So if you come to a Zen master and you simply are in this state of big mind, it doesn't matter what you say. You could just sit there smiling or not smiling or anything, or crying or anything. But in this state of big mind, in this state of true nature, of true self, of your very being, beyond all thoughts, beyond all non-thoughts, beyond duality, beyond non-duality, beyond being and beyond non-being. When you're in that state, that's the answer. That's the answer. That's the answer to every koan. That's the answer to life. And Zen doesn't stop there because, the story of Ramana Maharshi. I mean, he sat for 9 years in silence and stillness. So that's in the state of immersion in samadhi, immersion in this great bliss, which is wonderful and necessary to spend time immersed in this. I've spent like a year completely in this state without any contact with people or doing anything other than just being in this state. And it's important to immerse yourself in this state because conditioning is so prevalent in our society and so powerful that you need to pull back from society for a while, from all this constant conditioning, this nonstop conditioning. Every conversation, every time someone says, "How are you?" there's more conditioning, right? Because "how are you" refers to a you. You have to find the you. You have to bring the you back that you've successfully not experienced for a while to answer that question. So it's all about, conversations are all about I, me, mine. What have you been doing? Oh, and how have you been? What's going on with you? It's all about I, me, mine. Because in big mind, there are no thoughts, there are no words, there are no forms. There's nothing to say. It puts a damper on a conversation. Conversations are about conditioning. Big mind is about silence, stillness, truth, actual reality. So we spend some time away from that, and Ramana Maharshi did, just sat in samadhi for 9 years. But then he began teaching, right? The Buddha, when he awakened under the Bodhi tree, sat there for a while, and he considered just staying there in this enlightened mind and not teaching. But he got up and went and found his colleagues, the people that he'd been practicing with, and started teaching them. And then he taught other people and so on for many years. This is how the enlightened mind functions in the world. It functions in the world. It's actually very practical. It functions in the world. It gives teachings according to each person's ability to receive. In many different ways, sometimes just in silence, sometimes in a smile, sometimes in words, sometimes in art, sometimes in music. There are infinite ways that the enlightened mind expresses itself in the world and teaches in the world and functions in the world. There's no need of a plan because enlightened mind simply knows. It knows what the right thing to say is. It knows what the right thing to do is. It just knows. It's effortless. It simply is. Its very being is also this vast, infinite knowing. But it's not like a mental knowing. It's an all-inclusive knowing, just knowing as knowing. Not knowing something, not knowing what. It just knows. Just knows. And this state of being does not happen until this small self, the I, me, mine, is surrendered completely. It's just not here. It's just gone. It was a dream. It's realized as a dream. And it was always just a dream. In the dream, it seemed real, just as all dreams do. In the dream, the world of name and form seemed real, just as all dreams do. In the dream, the dreamer seems real, just as all dreams do. But big mind is awakened mind. This is what happens when we wake up. This is what we wake up to. Not anything that we can say. It's not name and form anymore, although we use name and form. Clearly, I'm using words. I'm using name and form. But hopefully something else is being experienced. Something else is being received. something that's beyond name and form, beyond being and non-being, beyond duality and non-duality. Your true nature. Big mind, clear like infinite space. And as it functions like a mirror, right? Whatever comes before it appears before it. And what goes, goes. There's no attachment in big mind. Big mind is everything. It's all inclusive. Nothing is apart from this. It's vast, like infinite space. Everything is contained in this infinite space. Everything appears in this infinite space and disappears in this infinite space, appearing and disappearing constantly. So there's no reason to hold on to things, because if we hold on to something, we automatically, to hold on to something, we have to see it as a separate self. We have to see it as something that has its own self-nature, right? Otherwise, why would we hold on to it? If it's all just this oneness, this inseparable oneness, which it is, what is there to hold on to? What part of that oneness are you holding on to, and why? Why are you making a part out of the oneness? See, this is not an attachment to oneness. It's just the realization that there's no separation. And yet, in functional terms, as the big mind functions, there is separation. Isn't there? You know? There is a body here and another body there, watching this. You know, there is the device that you're watching it on and the body. And it's you know, appears to be two different things. This is how we function in the world. This is how big mind functions in the world. It functions in a world of duality, in a world of name and form, in a world of a dream, in a world of illusions. And it functions with many, many people that are trapped in a dream, that are trapped in illusion. And its function is to try and help them wake up, to try and help them be free. As the Bodhisattva vow, Bodhisattvas are awakened beings. The Bodhisattva vow is, beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Numberless, infinite. I vow to free them. All of them. So that's just what happens. That's the function of awakened consciousness, is to help free beings that are trapped in conditioning, in illusion. And part of our skill in doing this is because we were trapped. Right? It's a helpful thing to be trapped and lost in illusion in order to help free people from illusion. We know what it feels like to be lost in a dream, and we know that we were lost in a dream, and we are not now. There's a very vast, enormous difference between being lost in a dream and waking up from that dream. And that waking up, in Zen we call big mind, enlightened mind. In Advaita they call it true self. Advaita and Zen are very, very, very similar. They're like twins, twin sisters. You know, we can look on the outskirts and see different things about it, but essentially they're very much the same because they're about direct awakening. They're not about awakening in another lifetime or after you die or something like that. They're about, you can awaken now, right in this very moment, because that is your true nature. You can return to your true nature because you are never apart from it. It is your truth. It is the truth of what you are. And it's always guiding you. You may not know it. You may not realize it, or some of you do. But your true nature is guiding you to awakening. And it's always doing it perfectly. Sometimes you perceive its guidance as suffering because things are taken away from your life. Sometimes you perceive it as great happiness, bliss, or love. But every bit of it is guiding you. Every bit of it is always guiding you. And if you can be quiet, still, let the mind field fall back, drop away for a moment, and see what it's like in a place that is neither being nor non-being, neither self nor other, neither duality nor non-duality, a place that's beyond all your spiritual teachings and knowledge. What is here that cannot be named? You know. You've always known. You are this knowing.